Hi guys, Ken here, postcards from Cebu. Um, so what's it like being in a long distance relationship? Well, it's trying, to say the least. But I love Vivian very, very much. And what we have to do, the hoops we have to jump through, both the Philippine government and the US government, we will jump through the hoops and we will be happy together. This is not my first rodeo, nor is it Vivian's. I was married twice before actually. First time I was in the Navy and married a girl, and as soon as my ship set sail, it was over. A little background on me, I guess, is appropriate. I'm both an engineer and a musician. I was actually in music school at the conservatory back in the 70s when Vietnam was going on. And although the war in Vietnam had pretty much ended by the time I became of age for draft, the draft was still going on. So I did get a little love letter from Uncle Sam that said he wanted me while I was studying music at the preparatory school at the conservatory. So I decided, well, I'll join the Navy. And my original thought, well, a couple of reasons I like the Navy. One was you get to travel around the world, and the other is that the Navy hires musicians. So my first thought was, well, I can get an audition and go into the Navy as a musician. Of course, once I got to the recruiter, they just laughed at me and said, you know how long you have to wait to get an audition to become a Navy musician? And so they looked at my test scores and they said, well, how about electronics? So I took electronics, and I'm glad that I did. I mean, it's been a blessing in disguise. Both sides of my brain I'm able to use, the artistic side and the analytical side, so I used them both. Anyway, I was in the Navy and married to my first wife, and of course that was a very short-lived marriage, less than a month. Then I was put to sea, and she put the screw and all the guys on the base. So after I got out of the Navy, I performed a lot in bands. I used to play in rock bands all the time back in the late 70s and 80s, and around the late 80s I met my second wife, who was I would consider my first wife, and I fell in love, and we settled down, and we made some babies. I have two wonderful children. We raised our children, and I went to work in the industry, the electronics industry, actually for a company that made yeast, a lot of manufacturing, and I took care of the computer control systems for the manufacturing. So I did that for many, many years, and I also taught music part-time in the evenings, which added some income. It was a nice extra income, and it kept me involved in music, and also played in bands part-time and stuff, and later got into recording and producing, and I produced records for a good friend of mine who came to me. We used to play in bands together back in the 80s. Yeah, if you're familiar with Maryland, this is a maple tree that I'm sitting underneath here, and the seeds are falling. It's that time of year. It's April, late April, and the seeds are falling off of the maple tree, so every once in a while I'm going to get smacked by one. But anyway, a friend of mine, Benny, came to me and wanted to record his catalog of music, his songs that he had written. So we did that, went into the recording studio and recorded the record. The band was called Hair Trigger. And that kind of started me on the recording bug. And after that, I produced records for several other artists, including myself. I have a smooth jazz record that I produced for myself, and I produced blues records and folk records and all kinds of stuff for different artists over the years. So I've always kept my foot in both doors, as an engineer, electronics engineer, and also as a musician and a producer. And I really enjoy working in the studio. I don't perform very much anymore. I kind of gave that up a few years ago. Got to be too much trouble to go out and perform. So anyway, after the marriage to my former wife, the mother of my children, after that marriage failed, I don't really want to go into all the reasons why, but let's just say that it did. I was really heartbroken. I was very heartbroken. We were married for a very long time, 20 plus years, raised 2 children, and it took me a while to get over that. And I decided that I was looking for something more, something different. And that's when I decided that, well, you know, I kind of have a thing for Asian girls, and I would like to meet one. And so I decided to start looking around on the internet. Of course, once I started looking around on the internet, I realized that I had to dodge a whole lot of scams. I mean, there are just tons of them out there. But I was able to find Vivian, and I am so happy that I did. She means everything to me. She really does. I love her to death. And so after almost 2 years of Vivian and I going back and forth and talking on the internet, and me traveling to Cebu in the Philippines, and staying there for a few weeks with her, and then coming back to the U.S. and then going back to the Philippines, and I decided it was time to propose. So I proposed to her, and we were married in January of this year, 2016. So now, what's it like doing a long distance thing? Well, to be honest with you, it sucks. I want her with me right now, but no can do. I have to play the game with the U.S. Customs and Immigration Service, with the Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs, and we have to do our paperwork. And Vivian actually has more to do than I do. Once USCIS approves the paperwork with them, then she's got to go get a medical exam at a hospital in Manila, and then go to an interview at the embassy in Manila, the U.S. Embassy, and then finally she can get her visa. The one good thing that about the way that we've chosen to do this, which is the form I-130, is that once she arrives in the States, she will have her green card and social security card mailed to her. So she'll pretty much be ready to go once she arrives. But there's a whole lot of waiting going on. So in the meantime, we talk via Facebook Messenger. We talk every day, twice a day usually, and stay abreast of what's going on in the Philippines. It's an election year in the Philippines and here in the U.S. So, but I keep my nose out of Philippine politics. It's not my business. It's for the Filipinos to decide. And Vivian pretty much keeps her nose out of the American politics, because it's not their business. It's for Americans to decide. So I think that's the only fair way to deal with it. Anyway, guys, as always, up here somewhere, I think is going to be the subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Thanks so much. Oh, don't forget, if you have any comments, feel free to leave comments. Like I say, always, if they're appropriate, I will respond. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.